Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Los Banos Talk. My name is Justin Collins. On tonight's episode, I'm going to be telling you all the things you want to know about the upcoming changes to our trash service starting July 1st. I went to the town hall meeting hosted by Mid Valley Disposal earlier today, and I asked a lot of questions on some of your guys' behalf. I also paid attention to the meeting, heard other people's concerns within the community, and got a lot of questions answered. And needless to say, I feel very well informed on this subject and feel like I can relay the information well. So I'm going to give you all the details you're going to want to know in just a moment, right after a brief message from our sponsor.
Have you been thinking about going solar? You know it's a good investment, but maybe you're that guy who's been diligently doing his homework, tirelessly searching the internet for the best possible deal and the best possible time to go solar. Well, I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't wait any longer. I'm sure you've heard the classic saying that time is money, but that couldn't be any more true than now. And you see, the reason isn't just because the fact that you're missing out on savings. The reason also has to do with the federal government. And the reason is the federal solar tax credit. In 2019, it was worth 30%. Right now, it's 26% because Congress extended it through 2022. But in 2023, it'll be gone. Recently, the city of Los Banos has partnered with Pacific Clean Energy, meaning that we'll get more rebates for switching to electrical appliances and more money per kilowatt hour for our solar panels. You can't afford to wait any longer. So do yourself a favor and take out your phone and call Superior Solar at 866-589-5626. That's 866-589-5626. Or visit them at superiorSolarInc.com. Superior Solar. Power up with the sun.
And we're back. Thanks for watching. So first of all, you're probably wanting to know about rates and price. Am I going to see a price increase? Am I going to see a rate increase? And it looks like that no, you're not going to see a price increase. In fact, it seems as though you're going to actually get a price reduction unless you're one of 64 individuals in town that has a special commercial deal. Other than that, everyone else in the city is having a price reduction, and about 64 people are going to be paying about $1 more a month. And so I'm going to show you what our new rates are going to be. So here, as you can see, this is for the 64-gallon garbage cart, and the current rate is $35.57, but it's going to go up to $36.90. However, the 96-gallon recycling cart is included, and the 96-gallon organic cart is also included, which results in a $10.09 decrease overall in price. So if you read a previous article of mine, you would know that we're moving up to a 96-gallon trash can as well. And they made it clear in the meeting that all three trash cans are going to be 96-gallon. However, the rate that we just saw was for a 64-gallon. So what does that mean in terms of our overall bill? Well, according to the acting city engineer several months back at a city council meeting, and I did an article on this, basically it's going to cost us about 5 cents more to have the 96-gallon. And that makes sense because during the meeting when I asked her if a resident wanted to go down from the 96-gallon to say the 64-gallon, could they? And the answer is yes, you can. However, you're only going to save about 5 cents. And so it's really not worth it in their opinion. And they don't really encourage it. And they don't encourage you to go down on the recycling or the compost. And it seems as though you don't really have the choice to go down on those. You only have the choice to go down on the trash. And again, going down really doesn't give you much in return unless you just really, really genuinely want a smaller can, because yes, it saves you about 5 cents. So for most of us in the city as a private resident, you're going to see, according to the data that they've given us and according to the presentations, a $10 decrease in your bill starting July 1st and a bigger trash can. So, with that question out of the way, which probably was one of your biggest questions and most glaring concerns, so the reason you haven't gotten a notice about a rate increase, right, is because it's projected that your bill is actually not going to go up, but instead actually go down. And so as a result, they don't actually have to notify you of a rate increase because the rate is technically not. Now those 64 individuals approximately that are going to have a slight increase, and I believe it was commercial only, so probably some restaurants or something, those individuals will be getting some kind of mail more than one time to let them know of the increase. And like I said, it's like $1 or something. There is another pretty big change that's coming as well. And this is one that I'm not really super crazy about, but the reality is that we don't really have a choice. And that is California's Senate bill, or SB 1383. And so what this bill does is it requires that city governments create a local ordinance by the year 2022. So they only have until January 1st, 2022. They have to create a local city ordinance that essentially makes it illegal to get rid of food and organic waste in the trash. And so what does that mean for you? Technically speaking, you're no longer supposed to, like after you eat your food at night and your dinner and your food scraps, you're not supposed to scrape that into the garbage anymore. And you're actually supposed to now, starting July 1st, put that in the compost bin. So you're actually supposed to put your food scraps in the compost bin. And what was interesting about that, and you're not supposed to use a bag. And it was asked, are they going to be providing any kind of like biodegradable bag or something? And the answer was no, they're not. So basically, what happens is yeah, in theory, you would have to like take your food scraps and then go out to your compost bin and scrape your plate off directly into the compost bin, or you'd have to get a indoor compost bin of sorts, put your food in there, seal it to keep flies and stuff, and then dump it into the compost bin. Or some people talked about you could put food, I guess, in a pot with a lid, keep it in your fridge or something, and then periodically dump it into your compost bin. But it's definitely a huge change, and something that I think is going to be a hassle for a lot of us. This requirement to take all your food scraps and put them into the compost bin outside and without any kind of bag or container holding them. And the reason why they can't have the bags, and the reason why they don't want you to put other things are contaminated, is because if you do that, you'll get a fine. And the thing is, and it's not just a fine, the reason is because this compost, Mid Valley, their compost is 100% certified organic, and they have to reach a certain level of purity. They turn this compost into fertilizer, and then our city is actually going to be reusing that fertilizer for our own landscaping needs, etc. So going forward, our food scraps and stuff is actually going to be utilized to maintain our own landscaping and some other things. And then I guess Mid Valley sells the rest. But they have a facility where they turn the compost into fertilizer and then sell it. Well, one thing they explained to us is that when you think about recycling, the whole point of something to be recycled is essentially to be reused. And if you have this recyclable item, so to speak, right, it's recyclable, and then you can't turn it into a product that anybody would actually want or use, and you can't sell it, there's no market for it, then essentially it's not really recyclable. And for a while, we took those kind of things and would sell them to China, but that's no longer allowed anymore. So it's very important, basically, that you don't put, like, say, a dirty pizza box into that compost bin or a dirty plate or whatever, even though you might think, well, it's could be recyclable, it could be food, but no, we asked that specifically. I asked that you can't put something like a dirty pizza box or something into this compost bin, and that's why, because it turns into fertilizer that the city uses, and that'll also be sold. And so we can't you can't do that any longer. There are fines that are going to be associated, and the fine, it starts out at $15. And here's the way the fines go, and I'll explain it to you. Basically, the first time there's an incident that happens, so you've contaminated something, you've put a non-recyclable thing in the recycling, or you've put a non-compost thing in the compost, right? You've done something like that. The first incident that happens of it, you will be given a warning and like a contamination tag. So they'll like put a, basically think of it like a sticker or a ticket on your can, so that way you'll know, right? And they'll let you know, hey, you contaminated it. And then they're also supposed to reach out, I guess, call you, but they're supposed to educate you somehow and tell you that you contaminated it. And then they're also going to explain what not to do, so you don't do it again. Then you also get a second warning. So you're allowed to do that twice. So you're basically allowed to make that mistake twice. The third time, you get a fine. And I asked, so is it warning, warning, fine, and then more warnings? No, it's warning, warning, fine, and then repeated fines just keep increasing in the amount of fine if someone's repeatedly doing this. So the next question you're asking me is probably, so how will this be enforced and when would it start? So, first of all, the one collecting the fine money and the one actually enforcing the fine will be the city. This is going to come from that ordinance that hasn't been made yet. And in the future, near future, there will be town hall meetings for the public to put their input on that ordinance, what it should look like, et cetera, et cetera. So the reality is that this hasn't really been created yet. So starting July 1st, it's kind of like a learning curve grace period. Nothing will actually go into effect fine wise until January 1st of 2022. So you basically, if you were to not comply or make these mistakes from July 1st up until January 1st, it's kind of a freebie. You would be warned and educated, but that is as far as it goes, because the fines aren't coming from Mid Valley. The fines would be coming from the city, and the city ordinance doesn't actually exist yet, but it's going to, because it has to, due to this state law. And the representative from the city explained that, and he also explained that we will have a chance to talk about that city ordinance as we get there, and we should start seeing things about that very soon in the near coming months. And of course, Los Banos Talk will cover it and keep you abreast of that and letting you know when it's happening and what's going on with that. You're probably also wondering, so how would this be enforced? And that was asked at the meeting, and they explained. So they have a couple things. One, they have they according to them, they said that the first line of defense, so to speak, is the driver themselves. And so the driver, when he's dumping it with the arm, he might kind of get a glimpse of what's falling out. And then they have cameras there and in the vehicle, and these cameras look at what's coming out of the can, and that's how they can kind of catch, was there something in that particular can. So they have these cameras. So that's one way that they would enforce it. I asked the question, well, what if it's wrong, or what if they mistake mine for my neighbor's or something? Is there a appeal process if someone feels as though they're wrongly accused of something? And the representative from the city said that they would, in any kind of city ordinance like this, they would create some kind of appeal process for people to be able to dispute a claim or something if they were found in violation of this, but only really if it was the third time and they were actually facing a penalty. If this was just one of the warnings, there probably wouldn't be an opportunity for appeal. They would just go straight to a warning, I guess, because it wouldn't charge you. But that's how he made that sound. The other thing they'll have is basically randomized, kind of like spot checking. So at random times, they might, check a particular neighborhood, or I guess a recycling coordinator might go along on the ride one particular week in one area, or just at random, and kind of, I guess you could call it sampling, but just at random look in a couple people's stuff and get an idea of if they violated any of the things, and then issue them the warning or the fine, so to speak. Something else you might want to know is that your service day of the week, it could change. And you're supposed to get something in the mail prior to like a month in advance, so pretty soon, that would basically tell you when it's going to change and what it'll be. And so any day now, any time now, we should see some kind of letter, something coming out to your residents telling you when your trash day is. Other individuals asked, well, what if I'm in an HOA and I live in an area where basically I don't usually have green waste because my lawn maintenance and stuff is taken for me? Well, as of right now, you would be given, the waste, but they talked about it at the meeting, and basically the city wasn't aware that some people had these problems, and so they're hashing it out now and addressing it. So if any of the things I'm bringing up to you now sound like it could be a potential problem for you, it would be a really good idea for you to reach out to the city in order to try to resolve it before we get to July 1st. But there's going to be kind of constant reviewing and assessing of how these things are going and tweaking of the process to try to deliver quality service, or at least that's the hope. So there's a few additional services, some things that we already have and some things that are new, that are also coming with the change of trash service. One of those things is a seasonal organic tree disposal. So in other words, if you get a Christmas tree and it's an actual tree, you can have it disposed of after Christmas. And that would be at a designated location from December 26th to the second Friday in January. There's going to be 4 annual cleanup events. And what I understand about these annual cleanup events is that they're kind of like the ones that we basically have now, but I guess we're getting 2 additional ones. 2 of which are going to be basically full service, as in they can take literally anything. And the other 2 they weren't entirely sure on, because I guess the county had to foot the bill, was the reason they explained. And so they're not really sure what they could take at those other 2 bonus events, so to speak. But 2 of the annual cleanup events will be basically full service, meaning they could take anything from, hazardous waste to electronics to you name it. Now, the other thing that we get that probably most of you would use is bulky item pickup. So each resident will get it 4 times a year. So 4 times, and it's a use it or lose it. It doesn't roll over to the next year, but 4 times a year, you can have curbside bulky item pickup. So what does that basically mean? If you need to throw away something humongous like a couch or a TV, right? It's obviously not going to fit in your trash can. You could leave it on the side of the road after you've called in advance and scheduled it with Mid-Valley. So what you would do is you would call them, schedule the appointment. They would tell you what day it'll be. You put your stuff outside on that day or the night before, and then they come pick it up and take it to the landfill for you. It's as easy as that. Someone asked if they could take the item to the landfill themselves, but then charge it on their account as one of their 4 pickups. And the answer is no, you cannot do that. Either Mid-Valley takes it and that counts as one of your 4, or if you do it yourself, you're just a regular customer going to Billy Wright like anybody else. And I hope that was informative for you guys and that answered pretty much all the questions you would have about this. Again, I'm going to post the raw, unedited video of the entire meeting as well. It went on for about an hour and 10 minutes, but pretty much what I said was the nuts and bolts of that meeting and basically the stuff that you probably wanted to know and that would affect you. If you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe to Los Banos Talk. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, losbanostalk.com. You can become a supporter of Los Banos Talk for just $4.99 a month and gain access to all the videos first and ad-free. Plus, behind the scenes bonus content and opinion pieces as well. Once again, my name is Justin Collins, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.